Hello, welcome back to the Cricket Nerds. Today, me and James are going to talk about all the action that's happened in this awesome weekend of cricket. We've seen three interesting games, and we're going to start with the big money game, the one that everyone was waiting for this weekend, India versus England. India have all the expectation as the host nation to bring this World Cup home. Maybe that would give them pressure, but it hasn't. England, they're the defending champions. There's lots of expectation of them. Will they mess it up? Yes, because they're England. So we're going to talk about all that today. But let's start with India's innings because it was a fairly shaky start, wasn't it? Thoughts?
Yeah, things actually started looking a bit dicey for India for probably the first time this entire World Cup, against the worst performing bowling unit probably in the entirety of the World Cup. But they actually looked really good. England looked really good in the field. David Malan was brilliant in the field. The bowling looked really tight in the first few overs. I've got very few complaints about the England bowling innings. And yeah, India, they did struggle quite a lot. I don't think there's a whole lot to be said. Like, I think Shubman Gill, I think he had dengue fever for a bit. So I'm absolutely forgiving him for a little bit of a bad form. I think that's a pretty decent excuse. Virat Kohli, 9-ball duck. It happens. When you can't score centuries every time.
Mm.
The one person I do want to pick out as being like a flawed character for India this time is Shreyas Iyer, because it's kind of like a known thing that if you want to get Shreyas Iyer out, you bowl short to him.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'd noticed it really until I saw it today when he was bounced out by Chris Wokes. I mean, of all people, to make Chris Wokes look like he's bowling deadly bouncers is really quite rough, because Chris Wokes, he's not slow, but he's fast medium, and his bouncers, we saw him in the West Indies and is in Australia on actually bouncy pitches in Australia as well, looked completely ineffective. So the fact that Shreyas Iyer can be made to look so uncomfortable, and when a batter as terrible as me can kind of point out or can see what's going wrong, like the fact that he's looking so cramped instead of just extending out the arms, anything like that, if I can see it, then it's really bad.
Yeah.
So I think
Mm.
Shreyas Iyer is the big kind of red flag for India for me, in terms of just I don't think I've ever seen a top order bat that vulnerable to such kind of innocuous deliveries.
No, but I guess he is a class act, and I think he's got a big future ahead of him, and that, yeah, it's certain things that he's got to iron out to move forward in his career. Definitely. I mean, there are other players who are kind of in the Shreyas Iyer bracket as being those young up and coming stars for India. You've got like Rishabh Pant, who's obviously going to come back into the side eventually, hopefully. You got Ishan Kishan as well. So yeah, they've got this breed of players who are going to be winning games and winning World Cups for India in the future. I imagine it's just at this stage. There's a few things, but yeah, it was a bit suspect, that wasn't it? Him doing that, and Kohli also looked completely not at ease. Really, he was really struggling, and Willie was bowling incredibly well to him. I mean, Willie, except for that second over that he bowled where Rohit Sharma took him apart with the short ball. Other than that, he looked really decent the whole game, and I was really impressed with him. And it looked like England had kind of sorted things out a bit with the bowling. Like there was no real problem with England's bowling, and it was a tricky pitch. And I thought the way that Rohit Sharma and KL Rahul put that partnership together was really strong. I mean, that's kind of how you needed to bat on this pitch. And I guess India more used to these sorts of conditions, but I think for any team playing on a used pitch, tricky conditions, that you have to still execute and put up a decent score that you can defend. I mean, Rohit Sharma in his post-match interview said it was really important to put on a partnership. It says the pitch got easier the longer you spent time in the middle. And he said we were still 20 or 30 runs short. So given that, it shows how badly England did. Like the whole time I was watching Rohit Sharma's post-match interview, I was thinking he's telling England how they should have played. He even said, I've got it here. It says, I know I have got the experience to bat situations, not just go out there and play my shots all the time. And you look at some of England's players like Ben Stokes and the sort of horrific display of batting that he showed against, forgotten his name, Mohamed Shami. And then Joe Root walking across his stumps to a first ball of Jasprit Bumrah. Like, they're the two most experienced batters in English cricket. And yeah, they just didn't use their experience to get themselves out of the situation. And yeah, I thought England gave themselves a chance. I don't know how you felt after that first innings.
Oh, incredibly optimistic. I was actually impressed with every single bowler. Even Liam Livingstone, his returns didn't look that great, but the actual quality of his bowling was really good. Like, I've been really impressed with Liam Livingstone's bowling. Just recently, he doesn't seem to be bowling kind of leg spin darts anymore. He's not trying to be the very poor man's Rashid Khan. He's putting a bit more flight, getting more turn, and I think he was unlucky not to take some wickets. You know, he got the edge a couple of times, but Buttler didn't have a slip in. We can potentially come to Butler's captaincy a bit later, but yeah, like I was impressed with all of them, and like I say, the fielding was outstanding as well. England's batting only needed 230, and yes, India have the best bowling attack in the tournament. That's worth mentioning. But when you know, I think Indian players, fans, everybody would even admit that they were easily 20 runs short on that pitch. And yet, correct me if I'm wrong, any Indian viewers, but I don't think anybody was that worried when England started to bat. I don't think anybody was panicking like, oh man, we're going to lose this. You know, the dream of the invincible World Cup is gone. I don't think anybody was worried because England have been so shaky, and they absolutely proved it. Like, as soon as one wicket went down, it was instantly like, right, the wheels are off, and we lose our heads.
It's crazy because we had it in the last game against Sri Lanka, where David Milan and Johnny Bairstow had quite a good, solid opening partnership. Yes, it wasn't 100% great, but they still got that platform. And today, when they were 30 without loss inside 5 overs, I was like, we're looking at the England of old here, over the past 8 years, where they've been able to break partnerships that have been happening with their bowling, restrict teams to a below par score, and then start strong and put the opposition under pressure. And within those first few overs, especially with Jasprit Bumrah being hit for a couple boundaries, Mohammad Siraj not looking 100%, it was like, well, England have all the cards here. They hold all the cards here. They only need 200 more runs. It looks plain sailing, but they just seem to not be able to avoid the collapse. It's something that England really struggle with. And I know we said in a previous podcast that it was a mental problem for England, but now I'm not so sure, because when you're at 30 for no loss and you've had such an amazing bowling performance, no matter how badly your batting has been, surely you've got a bit of confidence there. And I think it's obvious that there are technical problems that the England batsmen are showing. I don't think we can avoid that, which, in my opinion, is the reason why they're not able to absorb the pressure for a period of time. I mean, do you think even the Test team who's seen this revival would be able to last a period of 20 overs without seeing a reckless shot or a bad decision leading to a wicket? Do you reckon England could actually do that?
No, but I don't think many teams could, to be honest. I mean, you know, that there are players definitely that have better temperament and are far more mature. I don't know whether the appointment of Matthew Mott was a mistake, in terms of they were looking for somebody to progress them from being just manage them as a world-beating team.
Yeah,
because that's what this is. I think it's confusing because, like, in the post-match interview, Joss Butler said it's like same as usual or same old story, but it's not.
no.
It's only been the same old story for about 5 matches. Everybody thought that England were going to qualify for the semis in this World Cup. Like, everybody, like, it was nobody saw this coming. And so it's not just same old usual. And all of these players have performed against this bowling attack in the past. We've seen Johnny Bairstow, we've seen Ben Stokes, Joss Butler, Moeen Ali, Liam Livingstone. We've seen those perform in the IPL like not long ago, and do really well.
And they probably will do well in the IPL.
Yeah, against these exact bowlers. So I agree that there are definitely some technical flaws, and I think that might be a Matthew Mott thing in terms of he's not giving them the hard truths. He's not saying, look, lads, you need to train, your footwork's terrible. And that might be something. But also, on the flip side, I think there is a massive mental block, and I don't think the confidence there in the batting at all. I think the bowling, it was vastly improved, and they were uplifted by how well they fielded. But with the batting, I think the confidence is so low that I agree with what we said before about there's some mental block. I agree with what Owen Morgan said about there's some issues in the dressing room. It must be. I think it's the only explanation for how a group of players this good, maybe slightly over the hill, a lot of them, but still of this caliber, to lose so many games where they really should be winning.
Yeah, I think what's going to happen is this sort of performance from a team that's expected so much from. There's going to be all sorts of reasons that people are going to say, and knowing the England cricket team and how they operate, they'll kind of say, shut out all the noise, don't listen to what's going on outside, we need to fix this within ourselves. And in a way, they were able to do that after the 2015 World Cup. But after the 2015 World Cup, there were a group of players who didn't know how to play one-day cricket. This group of players knows how to play one-day cricket. All of their top 7, actually, I'm looking at their team, and I don't think there's any in that 11 who are under 30, except for maybe David Willey. But even that, I'm not sure. And
thank you.
Yeah, they're all very experienced players who have played in many one-day matches over the years. So they know how to win one-day matches. And I think there's a difference in mentality between, say, an England team and an Australian team. Australia come into this World Cup and the previous World Cup with everyone kind of writing them off. But Australia have come into the tournament and performed really well after a couple of shaky early games. And Australia have won so many World Cups. They've been dominant in cricket since they started playing it. And there's a reason for that. I mean, in England, we have this phrase, it's the hope that kills you, because we hope for every English sporting team to do well, and they always let us down. Do Australia even have that phrase? Because they're never killed by their hope, because Australia always seem to perform. And India, they went into this World Cup as the favourites, and they're performing. And I'm not really complaining. I'm just kind of, it's just the way it is. And England need to do something about it. Otherwise, is there anything that can be done about it? I'm not sure.
Well, after the 2015 World Cup, basically a team that looks remarkably similar to the one that I'm looking at right now, this exact scorecard against India, there were many, many similar names on that sheet. And they were all around the age of sort of 24, 25 at this point. And it was basically a refresh. They just started again from scratch. I don't know whether that's going to be something that England might need to look to, but they've just offered up all these contracts to these players that just haven't performed, multi-year contracts. So it's going to be very interesting to see. But before we move on, I do want to highlight 2 just England batters, how you do it. And the 2 case studies I want to point at are Rohit Sharma, who obviously pulled out an amazing knock. I'd say it's better than some of the centuries we've seen this World Cup, because his 87 was so well measured. Some of the quality shots that he was playing, one where he ran down the wicket and just clipped it to over mid wicket off Liam Livingston. It was a good ball, and it was such a risk-free shot.
Calculated shot making, isn't it?
Yeah, I thought it was a masterclass of an innings. And Surya Kumar Yadav as well. I thought he paced really well. Like, he actually absorbed the pressure at the start, and then he was able to express himself towards the bad balls. And it was, I mean, I can tell that Surya Kumar Yadav isn't very experienced in batting with the tail, because he just didn't know how to cope with Jasprit Bumrah. Because Bumrah obviously wants to bat, and at one point he hit a ball, he ran a single, he ran back, but Sky didn't run at all because he didn't want.
Yeah, that was brilliant.
Didn't want to lose the strike, so Bumrah ran 2, Sky ran none. That was a big highlight for me. But the point stands that Sky and Rohit, they showed how to do it, and England just need to take some lessons.
Yeah, I mean, if you're an Indian fan watching this, and you've managed to get through all our England hate, then your team is looking very strong. And even when you have, because you're expected in a tournament where you're going to play 9 games before the knockouts, you're expected to have a bad batting innings or a bad bowling innings. But the teams that win those tournaments are the teams that might have that bad batting performance, but their bowling performance pulls them through, or they might have a bad bowling performance and their batting performance pulls that through. And we're seeing that in every game with this Indian side, where as soon as they have a little blip in the game, they manage to right it. And yeah, they're looking a very good unit going forward with all bases covered. And if it's Shreyas Iyer, who's a class player, is the only weak link, then yeah, there's nothing much to worry about, is there?
Yeah, I think he does average about 45 in ODIs. Yeah. So if he's the shakiest looking player, you don't have any problems.
Another thing is that the Champions Trophy, to qualify for the Champions Trophy, you have to be in the top 8, I believe, of the 10 World Cup teams. I don't know if it's an automatic qualification or something like that. But Matthew Mott only found out about that qualification during this match. Which,
how does he not know about that? Well, what else has he had to do this whole summer? Like, we were just playing Test cricket.
Yeah.
Has he just been sitting on his backside, not concentrating on anything we need to do?
Well, maybe it wasn't advised because it was just going to be a given that England were going to qualify for it or something.
Well, maybe, yeah. But that's his job. Oh, yeah. Anyway. There we go. Yeah. But England might be underperforming, but some people that are completely overperforming are our YouTube members. That's one of the dodgiest segues we've done.
Oh, no, it's great.
A big thank you to Look Who's Watching and Parv, who are our certified cricket nerds. If you want to join them in becoming Cricket Nerds members, it's very cheap. It's only like $1.99 a month. And you get some really cool emojis. You get members only, we've got a little forum on YouTube, so we'll have a little chat on there. We might do some members only content as well. So join along. It's all a good laugh. And obviously we really appreciate it because it supports us. Okay, let's move on to some other overachievers. Australia versus New Zealand. Should we do that one?
Sure.
Because it was a great game. Really good game. And it's so sad that we're getting these really good games now that the stakes aren't as high, because we basically know who's going to qualify. It's going to be Australia, New Zealand, India, and who's the other one? South Africa. We kind of know it, even though mathematically I think everybody can still qualify.
Oh yeah, even England.
Yeah, even England. My goodness, but realistically, it's going to be those teams. So every match from here on in, a little bit of a dead rubber, but when they're like this, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Just what are your thoughts on Travis Head coming back from injury and pulling out a knock like that? He's got himself a fat IPL deal, hasn't he?
Yeah, that man is just incredible at just obliterating bowling attacks with just absolute disdain. Like, he just doesn't. I just don't think he has that fear in his head. He is like the Australian version of Bazball, but he executes it a lot better. Like, he's just he's so positive in his approach that teams don't really know how to stop it. It's kind of like the way he just times the ball with ease is just, yeah, it's great to watch. And for him to have come from injury, sat on the sidelines for a bit, and just come in and perform like that shows how hungry he is to perform for his team. And with David Warner playing how he's playing at the moment in such great form, to put Travis Head alongside him, that's quite scary, especially with Glenn Maxwell also performing so destructively at the end. Yeah, they've got the building blocks of a great team, and if things are looking bad, that's when you rely on Steve Smith and Marnus Labuschagne to kind of dig you out of those holes. So yeah, Aussie's looking dangerous because of Travis Head. 388 is a massive score, but I want you to talk to me about Glenn Phillips. Who is this part-time wicket keeper, off-spin bowler who's just more effective than most first-choice spinners at this World Cup? It's ridiculous.
Honestly, he confuses me so much because he's so brilliant at everything.
Yeah.
And I've got a feeling there must be some sort of ADHD where like he can't quite concentrate on one thing for an extended period of time. So he'd be like, oh yeah, I'm one of the best white ball batters in the world at the moment. Oh, he's bowling off spin. I might try that. He just runs off, bowls 10 overs, 3 for 37. And then he's like, oh, you know what? That fielding looks like fun. I might just become the best fielder of all time.
He's pretty good at that, isn't he?
You know, he's also a very good keeper. He's burgled 10 overs. And he didn't look bad either. Like he's actually a high. He looks decent. I don't know how. It genuinely baffles me. But to have that for us, for New Zealand, and for him to take the 2 massive wickets of David Warner and Travis Head, and Steve Smith, it was. They're probably the biggest wickets, aren't they?
Yeah.
Maybe Glenn Maxwell's in there, but it was huge, and that really gave New Zealand a look. What can we say about the other? I mean, I guess he's an all-rounder now, isn't he? He didn't really perform with the bat, but a lot of the other all-rounders in New Zealand did, and they, after such a destructive innings from Australia, things looked quite spicy for New Zealand. You know, they got off to an okay start. Then it was Rachin Ravindra that really stepped on the metal. Another person with a big IPL deal just in the near future.
For sure, he's going to be like one of the next highest IPL bid or something like that. I mean, he performed against England, who in the first game of the tournament were probably okay at that stage mentally. And he's also now performed against Australia in scoring a very impressive century. I mean, the pitch was good to bat on, but when you're chasing down a score of 389, there's always going to be that pressure, isn't there? But yeah, Rachin Ravindra looks incredibly composed, and a very good young player who has a very bright future for New Zealand. And it's going to be good for New Zealand to see those sorts of performances in these top tournaments, because you think about players like Ross Taylor, Brendan McCullum, Kane Williamson's kind of at the end of his career, and they need those big players to step up and to take that forward and to perform. And I think that Rachin Ravindra, he's got the ability to do that, and he's a very classy player, and he's a classic New Zealand player. He's not like insanely destructive or whatever. He's not like he's not the front and center. He's the fly under the radar character, isn't he? So yeah, he just fits it perfectly. I mean, it was looking like Australia were just going to steamroll it with 10 overs to go. But then the way that James Neesham batted, Jimmy Neesham, like, I felt sorry for him at the end. He looked so dejected, didn't he?
Yeah, he really turns up in World Cups, which I think is a really good quality for a player to have. You know, he turns up on the big stage, and I mean, bless him. He really did look completely ruined as soon as he was run out, trying to get back on strike. But I think if he'd made his ground, it would have been all right. Like I think New Zealand possibly would have won it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was very good. It was a very good run out. Like, it was a good throw from Labuschagne, very good dive from Inglis to get him out. But yeah, it was just a little bit short. And Lockie Ferguson, it's every player's worst nightmare, like / biggest dream, like potential, where you go in and your country needs one. You need a 6. You've got one ball to face, and everybody dreams of it. Everybody's like, "Oh, imagine doing that. It'd be amazing." But if you just swing and miss, it's not that fun.
No.
And yeah, there was just daylight between the bat and ball, and they couldn't do it. But it was yeah, a very, very good game, and everybody loves a last ball finish, and I think that's what the World Cup needs.
Mm.
It was very exciting, and I'm happy for the fans.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing is that the main takeaway is that New Zealand are very good at chasing, and that's something that we've seen a lot of the other teams who are at the top struggle to do. So that will hold them in good stead, I think, moving forward. The other game that happened this weekend was, if it wasn't for England, probably the wooden spoon game. But the way that the Netherlands dismantled Bangladesh in their bowling innings, they just looked really good a whole game, except for the top order batting. I thought they put up 229, but I'm not expecting Netherlands to score massive scores, but I'm expecting them to be competitive, and I felt like they were the whole game. Were you impressed by them?
I was really impressed by Scott Edwards, the skipper and keeper. He's looked brilliant, like all tournament. Netherlands, they've won me over this World Cup. They've shown so much grit that 229, it shouldn't really be that competitive a total, and yet it really was when you look at the Bangladesh scorecard. Like that was embarrassing. Almost as embarrassing as an England scorecard, but not quite. But it was bad. And yeah, it's just a complete performance from Netherlands as well, with I don't know how to say Dutt, the off spinner, Arian. Yeah, he was brilliant. 3 maidens in there, and it was so economical that I think it was, and Paul van Meekeren was obviously the standout bowler, but I could pinpoint every single bowler and say, yeah, they did their part. Like they put on the pressure and gave nothing away. There weren't really many loose deliveries at all.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just outstanding from Netherlands. Won me over completely.
Shakib Al Hassan said in a post-match interview that if everyone played their part, then Bangladesh wouldn't be in that position, which I think is kind of throwing his team under the bus a little bit. But he's basically just frustrated by how Bangladesh aren't kind of banding together and everyone's not chipping in. And it's the opposite with the Dutch side, because when you look at that Netherlands side, other than maybe Baz the leader, there's no like standout player like your top quality world-class player, which means that everyone does need to chip in. Everyone needs to play their part. And I feel like with this Dutch side, they're all doing that. I mean, Engelbrecht has come in and looked really good. Get him in the England side. And I think he's the cheapest player on the fantasy draft. So I've got him in my side.
Oh, brilliant. I've got Dutt in my side, and he's done very well this week.
So we're all doing well out of the players that aren't English. So there we go. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. Remember to subscribe and like. It's free. So do those things. It really helps us out. Share it with your friends. You can also follow us on social media. All the links are in the link tree down below. James already talked about membership, but if you want to be a member, it's really easy. Look at the membership button next to the nearest to the subscribe button, somewhere around there. And we're going to bring you an episode very soon. So we'll see you soon.